there's pros and cons to everything in life, the yin and the yang, the good and the bad. Same thing with property management, okay? From time to time, you're going to have to evict somebody. It's just going to happen. If you grow big enough, eventually it's going to happen, all right? Stuff happens in people's lives, and you got to deal with it, okay? You've got to determine to be a good business person, because if you're a good business person, you'll be profitable, and you can also be a good, compassionate human being too, okay? But the point is sometimes you have to evict people. Again, every state and province has its own set of rules and regulations. I can tell you there are parts of the U.S. that are very pro-owner and other parts that are very pro-tenant. Up in Canada, Montreal is very pro-tenant. Toronto is very pro-tenant. The Ontario province is mainly pro-tenant, but there are cities and towns that are more pro-owner, okay? But in the States, there are states like Florida that it's very easy to evict somebody. I don't mean like unfairly easy. It's just an easier, faster process because there's so many hotels and motels in Florida. A lot of the laws are strongly influenced based on the hotel motel industry, where things have to happen more quickly. Okay, other states like New York, parts of like Massachusetts, for example, Boston, it's a little bit more leaning towards the tenant. Same thing in parts of New Jersey. It's going to take you longer as the owner. There's more rules and regulations, more restrictions, things like that. I'll talk about those things separately. What I want to talk about right now is the eviction process itself, okay? Now, in most places where we live in any English-speaking country, England, Canada, U.S., New Zealand, Australia, you name it, most of the laws are very similar. And in the leasing law, they have in there what's called a right to notice. Okay, this is true in a lot of contract law. In the lease, it's going to say the tenant has a right to notice if you're going to evict them. So let's say they haven't paid their rent by the 5th of the month. In most states, they say you can evict somebody as long as it's the 5th or later and they still have not paid their rent. Let's say that date's come, and you, instead of just going right to the magistrate, if you haven't done anything to relieve or remove that right to notice, you first got to give the tenant notice. Written notice, you're going to go through the eviction process. We call it a landlord-tenant complaint. You're going to appeal or sue for custody of, or excuse me, possession of the unit, okay? Now, the only way around it is in your lease, you have them sign what's called a waiver of right to notice. What that means is on the 5th of the month, you can go right to the magistrate and apply or file your what's called your LT, landlord-tenant complaint, okay? Usually it's going to cost you $100, $150, whatever the case is, okay? And then the judge is going to set a date, usually between 7 and 14 days out in the future, okay? And at that point, the court notifies you and the tenant, always in writing. You both show up and you have your court date. A lot of cases, the tenants aren't even going to show up, okay? The ones that do, usually it's a slam dunk. You got everything documented, you cross your T's, dot your I's, got the lease, got a recording or records of all your communications, and the tenant's just not that prepared. In some cases, they will fight you on it. They'll say, well, this landlord was a big jerk, never did anything. You know, you've heard that before, right? Well, the fact is you can show that you've got maintenance records on the property. You can show, remember, you keep records on this. You can demonstrate that you have been maintaining the property. Basically, debunked anything the tenant comes up with. Well, in any case, let's say you win. You get the judgment in your favor. You still don't have possession of the property. You've got to now let another so many days expire, like 10 days. Sometimes it's 7, sometimes it's 14. You go in and you file that judgment and go and ask for what's called possession. Okay, it's a possession order of possession. You have to actually file for that and pay another fee. Okay, and then the tenant in that meantime can remedy the situation and make good on their past due rent. If they don't, even though you still have that judgment, you still have to go in again and then you have to record that. You have to apply or request what's called order of possession. The tenant has 10 more days typically to still make good on their deficit, and if they don't, then you can go back in again and say, okay, still haven't paid, and then you do if they haven't left the property, you actually have to file for eviction, the actual physical process of evicting somebody. Then usually the local constable gets involved. They get another 7 to 14 days to post the property, go over, and they'll meet you there. They'll say, you got to meet me here Thursday at 3, whatever the case is. And you've got to come with a set of locks to change the locks, and they're going to physically remove that person if they're still there, okay? That's the basic process. Some states it'll take you 30 days. Some states it's 35 days. Some states it's 45 days. Some states it's 20 days. Some states it's 15 days. You just have to learn what it is, what the requirements are where you live in your state or province, okay? Now, in any case, that's the basic process. Let's say you do win, and you go through the eviction process, and they appeal that. They appeal it. They appeal what's called the arbitrator's level. You go there, have another hearing, start all over again. Chances are you win, but if not, you give them, they won and you lost. If you win, let's say you do win, they can appeal again. In most states, they can keep appealing to the next level because the law allows them to do that. In most cases, they won't. They'll go one level and they're done. If they go to the second level, usually they're done at that level. I've never had anybody go past that level, okay? But the point is this, there are certainly rules to follow. You have to follow the rules. I've had people say, I'll just remove the toilet, or I'll remove the front door. Don't do that. Or a lot of lands will say, I'll just change the locks. Don't do that, because you're breaking the law, and you don't want to get on the bad side of the law. You want the court system and policemen to know you're a good owner, a good property manager, if that's what you're doing, if you're managing for other people, and maintain your good reputation, okay? All right, lots of stories on evictions. I can tell you some real doozies. That's where all the gray hair came from. But save yourself some trouble. Do the proper screening up front. Follow the rules, and you should have fewer and less damaging headaches. Okay, hope that helps you. Take care. God bless. We'll see you on the next video.